good?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our November meeting. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Sunshine Law annual notice having been published on or about July 1st, 2024 in 2 local newspapers with a copy on file with the board secretary and a copy to be posted to the TCCS website. This meeting is being called to order at 7:09. Okay. First thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes from 10:07, the closed session minutes from that meeting, 10:16, and the closed session from that meeting. Can I have Carter move second? Avino seconds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, minutes approved. One thing we wanted to add into our meetings is to read the mission statement, just so we're all aware of what the mission statement for TCCS is. It is the mission of TCCS to provide a nurturing environment in which students realize their full intellectual potential and become self-directed learners who make both pragmatic and creative use of basic skills and who understand and appreciate the cultural diversity of our society. The faculty, staff, parents, extended family, and other members of a child support network are committed to creating and operating a student-centered learning community, which promotes and supports a child's natural curiosity and enthusiasm for acquiring knowledge. This learning community will follow a living curriculum, an experiential, interdisciplinary study that encompasses literacy, critical thinking, and responsible social interaction while empowering each child to demonstrate his or her unique interests and abilities.
That's it. That's the other part of the website.
All right. So the reason why we're going to read that every time is just so that not only the board, but the community, we're working under the same mission. Okay. And it's you.
That's perfect. All right. Thank you, Tsuma. So I have just a couple things to touch on before we move into the presentation of our NJSLA scores from last spring. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out. First and foremost, though, I do have an enrollment update. We are currently at we continue to be missing one 8th grade spot. I know I mentioned that at our last meeting. We have had a couple names cycle through the wait list with people not taking it. Again, it's sort of understandable. It's hard to kind of jump in after the school year has started, particularly if it's only for 1 year. But we do continue to let lotteries work through the system, and hopefully someone will take it sooner rather than later. Next, we have just a brief update on our 2025-2026 admissions. The lottery that we're taking that's going to take place for that, as well as the open houses that are coming up. So the applications for next school year, the 25-26 school year, they went live last Friday online. In the time since then, where we haven't actually advertised anything other than having a link on the website, we've already got 72 applications. That's just word of mouth and people who are interested. Of those 72, 41 of them are for kindergarten. We're going to have 45 spots available. So, I mean, that's good considering the fact that we're going to start advertising this week. We actually got the brochures together for printing. And we have the notification that's going to go in the newspaper for our open houses, as well as a little bit of an online advertising campaign about the school and the fact that we're accepting applications for the coming school year. The open houses that we're going to have, as usual, we're going to have 2 of them. The first one is going to be November 14th at 6:30 p.m. And then the second one is a Saturday. It's December 7th, which I believe will take place at 10 a.m. So those 2 are on the calendar, and they're also in the brochure that's going to go out. At our next couple of meetings, we'll just give some continued updates on how many people are applying for the next school year. And all applications are going to be due January 5th, as is always the case per board policy. Next, I have just some brief facility updates. The first of those is actually great news, as we have mentioned in our social media, as well as in the backpack notice last week. And TCCS also put out a little notice about this. But our playground is finally open, the renovated playground that is. So that opened last Monday, and it's fully functional and available for recess. And there's a couple things that we're still doing in terms of tweaking the surface where we had some minor issues with with the installation, but it's nothing to be concerned with from a safety perspective. So that's open, thankfully. I just want to thank TCSCO, the board, all the parents who've contributed over the years. We know that this has been a long time coming. There's been a lot of talk over the years about raising money for this. Thankfully, we had the means to do it this year with a grant and what else we can do to sort of supplement that. I want to thank CMR for really pushing to get this done over the last, I don't know, probably about a year now. I'd say, you made it almost a personal sort of mission to get everybody to be on the same page and make it work. So we actually now have something to show for that. So I'm very thankful, and the kids are thankful, and it's just a nice, refreshed sort of update to our outside space. So thank you for that. The next thing that I want to just mention is that the water damage that I spoke about at the end of the summer leading into the school year, we're finally, actually, we had a construction meeting today with the company that's going to be doing the work. The repairs are going to start on this Thursday, actually, when school is closed. It's going to take, they said 2 weeks max to get the walls put back up and painted and everything else, so that it's all complete. So in that time, though, there is one first grade classroom that's going to be displaced. I spoke with Ms. Hunter about that. We're still looking at specifically what that's going to look like, but it's going to be, a relocation to the art suite for the most part, because we've got a little bit of flexibility with the space. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not impacting anybody's particular program, particularly with things coming up with the winter shows and Special Persons Day and everything else. So we're gonna need some flexibility from everybody, but I think we're ready for that. Also, lunch and everything else that's going to take place in the multipurpose room, that will continue as normal. The area that they're going to work on is out of the way of any of the space that we typically use in the room, and it's not an issue with inhabiting the space, is what they said. The only other thing that is going to be impacted, and we have to talk about this, Ms. Torres, is the fact that the rear stairwell is going to have limited access for emergency purposes only, while they're working in there to put up the walls and whatnot. So we have to maybe reroute some of our existing traffic for recess and lunch and whatever else. But again, it should be hopefully short-lived. We should be all set 2 weeks after they begin, if not sooner. And I would certainly hope by the next board meeting I'll be able to give a full update that we're all good. So that's it for the facility. I'm going to actually turn over now to Ms. Torres, who's going to talk a little bit about parent-teacher conferences.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to just talk about conferences and events since it's all together. Our parent-teacher conferences are this Wednesday. We have half a day. Conferences begin at 1:20 and end at 8 o'clock, with the teachers having a break in between. Please make sure if you cannot sign up now, but if you missed the spot for whatever reason, please contact the teacher to make a separate appointment with you if you didn't get a slot for parent-teacher conferences. We ask that you do not bring students to the conferences so the teacher can meet with you. And then that's parent-teacher conferences. We had an FDU partnership. I talked about it a little bit at the last board meeting. Last year, we worked with the boys basketball team, who worked with some of our boys team here, and they met with them. We tried to do a mentorship program. They attended our students' basketball game. We went to their game. They invited some of our students to their game. And so this year, the girls' basketball coach from Fairleigh Dickinson actually reached out to me, and they liked the partnership we had with the men's team. And so we started a partnership with the girls' team now with FDU. They came one day to do community service with all of our students. And they also asked to do a clinic with our 5th through 8th grade basketball team. And so we're using last year's team because they already were the team. So we're going to have a clinic tomorrow with our girls basketball team. And I actually got last minute notice that they asked if we can have the boys team join in as well, because they may have a special guest. And I don't want to ruin it because I'm not sure if they're coming tomorrow, but we may have the NBA coach come in to speak to the students tomorrow. So we did reach out to the parents of those players to come. So they'll be meeting. They're having a little talk. We may try to partner them up. But for the most part, they are going to be doing a little clinic, like at least an hour and a half tomorrow with our last year's basketball teams, because it's the girls and the boys. So I'm really excited about that. Just thank them for reaching out so that we can have this partnership with them. Like Ralph said, we have an open house November 14th at 6:30 p.m. We have on December 7th at 10. We also have Special Persons Day, November 22nd. And that same day, if you haven't heard yet, we're also taking our grades 3 to 8 students to an FDU game. So teachers are working on permission slips as we speak. So the students from 3rd to 8th grade will be going. So we'll be transporting buses to get to the game. So parents will have to sign a permission slip, obviously, for their child from 3 to 8 to attend. So that's another something exciting. It's a kids' day for them that they're hosting, and so other schools may be in attendance as well. So this is very exciting what we're sharing with Fairleigh Dickinson and our students. So very excited to announce that. And then Harvest Festival, November 27th. So those are the current November events. Hope I'm not missing anything.
That's it. No, but I mean, obviously last week we had Halloween. It was a crazy fun time. Thank you to all the parents who came out for the parade. I want to thank all the staff who participated in our school-wide costume initiative, which again is really kind of tied to some of the positive morale goals that we have for number 2 this year. So I do want to thank everybody for participating and really having a good turnout.
Who won? Teachers.
Miss Addie won. She won the best contest. Yeah. So, and again, as promised there, that would be showcased on social media. So make sure you check out the school Instagram for some photos. It was a good time.
And thank TCCS for Trunk or Treat. That was also a very good, well-attended event. And we also had the 8th grade parent committee that did a haunted hallway for the 8th grade students to raise funds. And I believe they raised over 600 for the 8th graders during that haunted hallway event. So that's great. Oh, yeah. That's it.
Great. So now actually we're going to turn over to Miss Anders, who has a brief update on our HIB self-assessment.
Yep, every year the daily has us do just a self-assessment, and it does ask how many HIBs there were, but it's more so like what are we doing as a community to address HIBs? So what workshops did we do? How was our staff trained? Was there any community involvement? Things like that. So we go just through their form and assess how we're doing. And the goal is obviously always to do the same or better as the previous year. And then we submit that to the state and we post it on our website once we kind of get everything back.
When can we anticipate that we get the scores back?
Soon.
Right. So yeah, and tonight there's a resolution to just approve the submission of it so that we can send it to the state.
Okay.
And then once we do get it back, we by mandate we do have to put it on our website, so it'll be public.
Technically, it has to be submitted like on the website by January 30th. I could be wrong on that date, but they do have like a deadline of when it has to be on the website by.
Perfect.
Evaluating us like last year, what we did.
Thank you.
Okay. So the last thing that I have in the initial part of the meeting here is our annual presentation of NJSLA scores, which again we're required to publicly share within the first 30 days of actually 60 days of receiving them. So we're definitely within the time frame. All the parents have received individual score reports. If you have a 3rd through 8th grader, or technically a 4th through 8th grader, you would have received your individual score reports in the mail a couple weeks ago, with a little explanation about what the score reports are about. Tonight's presentation really just kind of highlights it's going to highlight the kind of reports that we get from Linkit. You'll see that there's a lot of data involved. I'm going to kind of really just move through the first section of that because there's a lot of micro data involved that'll be shared out, and this report will be made public to everybody. But then there are some real things that we want to focus on in terms of just overall passing rates for our cohorts and for individual grades. And then some of the things that we need to really kind of focus on to make sure that we're addressing whatever needs we have from the data. All right, so.
I just wanted to remind the community that if you have any comments or questions, there is a section in the meeting where we ask for public comment, so you could speak directly to it at that time.
Perfect. All right. So again, this report is courtesy of Linkit, which is the service that we have used now for 2 years, and we're really using even more this year for our in-house data, for warehousing it, and also for organizing and cross-referencing and seeing how we're doing in terms of state requirements. So they actually got a report of all of our data, and they provide us with this information and even more that we're not sharing publicly, because this particular report is somewhat redacted, because any group of students that has either 10 or less, we can't report on their data because there'd be personally identifying information. So you'll see in some areas there are like just dashes that doesn't say specifically, how we scored in certain areas. But for the most part, most of our groups are large enough that it's not an issue. So you'll see here, I mean, this is kind of tiny. Let me see if I can make that any bigger. We'll go one more. All right, so we'll start with, I mean, actually, it's broken down into several different reports, and what they focus on is ELA, math, and our science scores. ELA and math both have five levels of scoring. Levels 4 and level 5, meeting expectations and exceeding expectations, are considered passing. Everything else leading up to that is not passing. So you'll see that what they've done is they've compared for ELA how we did at each of these individual scores over the course of the last 3 years. All right, and again, we're not going to get into all these specifics because there's really a lot of data. But the overall takeaway is that in ELA, school-wide, our passing rate went down by 4.3% overall. And it certainly varies by different grade levels, where you see, in 8th grade, the students who have since graduated, their overall, it's not their score, but in 8th grade, our scores went down 33% over the previous year. So obviously that's a concern. And it's something that we'll highlight later in the report, because these are the larger picture issues that we definitely want to take a look at. So for math, I'm sorry. So first, we actually have some graphs that really kind of highlight the 5 different scoring possibilities that we have at each grade level for ELA. You'll see, across the board, for the most part, the highest grouping of each test was meeting expectations, where the level of students exceeding really greatly varies. We'll see 4th grade, we had more kids who exceeded expectations than met expectations, but that certainly stands out as an anomaly if you look at the rest of the grade levels. All right. For math, it's a similar slide here with a lot of data. You'll see overall, as a school, we actually improved our passing rate by less than 1%. So again, it's pretty consistent with the previous year. But when we get to the end of the presentation, you'll see more visually how we did at each grade level. So similarly to the ELA report, this one's a little bit different, where it's not as consistent with the grade levels meeting expectations, particularly in our higher level courses or higher grade courses. We're seeing a lot less of the meeting expectations and exceeding expectations, and we are experiencing some issues here where we're having higher rates of not meeting, partially meeting, and approaching. All of this data has been shared with our chairs, at the end of the summer, and with specific content level area teachers, which, in addition to these larger concepts, they have individual scores and individual skill sort of deficits per grade level and per student. So looking at science, we have similar issues here, except overall, as a school, science scores went down about 15%. So that's obviously a concern. The science scores actually were received later than the ELA and the math, where we didn't get them over the summer. We actually just got them just before we received the actual score reports that went home. So looking at the graph for science, you see that we've got much higher levels of below and near proficiency. for grades 5 and grade 8 and school-wide. But what's a little bit different about science, obviously, is that they only take it in those particular grades. So we don't have cohort information to see how students are progressing or going down from year to year. But obviously, this is not the direction that we want things to be moving in at all for any of our subjects, but, you know, it's especially a concern now looking at this science data. So the next couple of slides, and again, I'm not going to delve on it too specifically because it's a lot of really, you know, minute information. But if you look at the reports that we get from Linkit, they provide us with the overall changes as a school and by grade level with, you know, the number of kids who passed and the number of kids who did not pass. So we see that for ELA, and again, it just reiterates what we said before, but just with more granular data. For math, and then for science, again, like we said, it's you know, definitely moving in the wrong direction. Then the next couple of slides just kind of takes a look at the number of kids who are testing because we're currently still in the middle of an expansion. We had 11 more kids test in ELA last year than the prior year. We had 11 more kids take the math test. And then science, there was only one more student because last year was the first year that we had kids moving into that particular grade level. So the next couple of slides here, again, is just sort of a drawn out comparison of each of the grade levels compared to the state, which again is an important sort of metric because if statewide scores are going down, that sort of, you know, helps to explain a little bit of the direction that we've moved in. The other metric that is really important to us that we don't have yet is the Teaneck Public Schools scores. When reporting to the state and looking at our annual reports, you know, that is one of the greatest factors that the DOE looks at to see how we're doing compared to our local peers. And, you know, we're actually hopefully going to be getting somewhere down the line some more comparative scores from the Charter Association to see how we've done against peer groups in other charter schools and other schools that are similar to us in terms of demographics and size and everything else. So I'm just going to really kind of just move through these because, again, it's each individual level, but looking at it compared to the state. But you will notice that, I mean, the trends are somewhat similar with the state in terms of how we're doing, but that doesn't justify anything because we do want to be, you know, performing at the level that we know that we can and we have in the past. Same thing goes for math. We're just going to kind of go through these. And then science, where we're looking at, you know, again, level one, level 2 are not passing, and level 3 and level 4 are passing. So you see at the state level, you know, we've got the number of kids in the state who were proficient were 17. We were only at a little less than 14%. And then at advanced, it was the statewide, it was about 6%, and we were at half of that, about 3%. And in any of these figures, you also have to kind of keep in mind that 3% equals about one student based on the size of our grade levels. So, I mean, one student passing, not passing could really shift our overall scores one way or the other. But that's why it's important to make sure that we're addressing those particular needs that we have, you know, at the more granular student level. So the next two slides that I'm going to show, these are actually not Linkit reports. These are just reports that I have run. In a more like sort of visual way, you know, we don't want to see red, and we see a whole lot of red in these particular comparisons. But these are comparing our scores from this year to the year prior by grade level. That's what the first one is. So you see that, I mean, there are a couple areas where at the grade level the scores improved. ELA grade 4, ELA 6th grade went from 35% to 63%. I mean, and I will say where it has gone down in some cases, it hasn't gone down like too much, but again, it's still a concern, particularly like I mentioned before with ELA going down 33%, you know, in terms of the number of kids who passed. In math, you'll see it's also somewhat similar, where, you know, 3rd grade went up, 6th grade went up 23%. So something, you know, is definitely positive about this 6th grade test. But in 8th grade, for math, which again is only some of the kids, it's not a comparison of all the 8th graders, that went up only 2%. But our higher level classes, such as geometry and algebra, there are concerns where algebra went down 27%, geometry went down 3%. Yeah, which again is one student. And then science, again, we went down 21% in grade 5, 11% in grade 8, and overall the average is 16%. The next report that I ran, which I do annually too, is just to see how individual grade levels are progressing from year to year. So this is the same group of kids taking a different test the following year. So the kids who were in 3rd grade last year, there's nothing. In 2nd grade last year, there's nothing compared to. So 49% of those passed. The ELA 4 score. This is the comparison of how they did in 3rd grade compared to how they did in 4th grade. So they went from 64 to 80. So that's growth for that particular grade. Kids who were in 5th grade and going from 4th grade to 5th grade, they went down 22%. Relatively consistent for the students who are in 6th grade coming from 5th. And something positive for ELA for the kids who went into 7th grade coming from 6th grade, they went up 25%. ELA, the 8th grade students who graduated who were prior in 7th grade, they went down 11%. In math, we see things that we can sort of highlight is the kids who, again, the students who were in 7th grade algebra, 7th grade math, who moved into algebra, there was a bit of an improvement there. But again, it's not really a true comparison of the cohort because those kids get split into 4 different groups when they get into 7th and 8th grade. End of the story though is that there's too much red. There's just too much red, and there's just too much moving in the wrong direction. So just a brief assessment of these 2 different comparisons. Obviously in ELA, there's a noticeable decline in ELA pass rates from 23 to 24, which we talked about. There were significant decreases for grades 3, 5, and 8. And again, grade 8 experiencing the largest drop of 33%, which is obviously a concern. Grade 4 showed an improvement. Grade 6 saw a substantial increase, which for math and ELA, we're pleased with the 6th grade performance and how that went last year. In math, also somewhat mixed, where you see different sort of increases or decreases based on the grade. But overall, the average pass rate in math only declined by 2%. But again, that's still not the direction we want to be moving in, particularly when we talk about school-wide. Science, there's a clear concern there where both grade levels went down by grade level, and that's something we need to sort of work on. There is no cohort comparison for science. When looking at the cohorts, in ELA, the kids that were moving from grades 4 to 5, they had a drop of 22%, but the kids who were moving from grade 6 to grade 7, they improved 25%. So it's really difficult to say, what's attributing to either of those. But I mean, the things that we do want to look at are just when they're transition years and when kids are moving from different mixed grade levels and everything else. For math, there was also mixed results for the specific cohorts. Grade 4 to grade 5, they declined 19%, but the kids who were moving from 6 to 7, they improved by 6%, which again is like 2 students. But notable decreases were definitely seen in advanced courses such as algebra and geometry, with geometry going down by 22%. So those are our concerns. All right. So again, even though it's inconsistent, we're it's pretty clear that there are genuine concerns that we have. But to be totally honest, if you look at our goals this year, we're well aware of these deficits because we weren't allowed to share them publicly until now. So we've taken that into consideration, and we've sort of tailored our goals to help sort of address the concerns that we have seen, and we've made it very clear to our chairs and to the teachers that these are the things that we want to really attack and what we can do to hopefully address them. So just to reiterate what our goals are and how we think that these are going to help to address some of the concerns that we have. But goal one is to obviously increase academic expectations, focusing on special ed and INRS and specific intervention programs. This is going to hopefully help us to improve the performance of the students who are not meeting the expectations or just sort of really close to passing. The use of data and link it for progress monitoring is going to be essential moving forward, again, because this is the data that we have to kind of use to see how we're doing throughout the year. So we're not, surprised when things come along with the standardized test scores at the end of the summer. And just the other two goals and how they can sort of feed into just improving academics. But improving expectations when it comes to behavior, improving morale and discipline of the students, that should in turn equal improvements when we talk about academics, because that then is a little bit more of a focus, and that's what we're hoping to see. And we do, to a certain degree, certainly see some of that already just 2 weeks and 2 months into the school year. And then acknowledging achievements and really kind of highlighting and focusing on what's working and what's positive about what the kids are doing when it comes to behavior, and even looking back at the academics closer to goal one, focusing on our gifted and talented programs and everything else. We are making a conscious effort and decision to highlight what is working and what is positive, and making sure that there's hopefully more of that. And then finally, strengthening our community connections and working with our parents, having these kinds of presentations and kind of keeping people in the loop as far as how we're doing, and what our expectations are and what we're hoping to accomplish, should hopefully get them involved when it comes to participating, and really helping to support some of our learning initiatives with experiential learning, and getting the kids involved and excited about learning, which hopefully should then in turn result in positive movement with some of these test scores. But again, it's not a great report. It is not a report that I want to give. Obviously, it's a lot easier to bring up a sheet that's all green and things are moving in the right direction for everybody. But this is the reality that we're working with. And we also have to keep in mind that this is last spring and we are at a very different place right now. And we are continuing to focus on what we could do to make sure that this spring our scores are significantly better, which is why we set that goal of at a minimum, improving our overall scores, and making that a focus while not just teaching to the test. So that's it. That's the presentation. This will be made public to everyone. We'll have it with the minutes. We'll put it on the website. So if anyone is interested in looking at the really specific data by grade level and everything else, we'll have that available. Okay. Any questions from the board?
Oh,
And it's up to you if you want to take. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll just have that all available to us for the next curriculum meeting so we could look at it. And I mean, we're moving in the direction with the linkage scores and getting all that data, and every meeting we're doing the same in curriculum. So we're bringing it back to curriculum goals and the overall goals. So hopefully we could see some change this year.
So, I mean, I see we have questions. I don't know if you want to take them now or later. It's up to you.
Well, is it okay to wait until public comment? Will you remember your question? Yeah.
I have 3.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So the next is the curriculum, the committee updates, which kind of might address some of the questions overall. So a curriculum meeting was held on the 30th of September. We did look at the beginning of the year assessment data and wanted to review exactly how that data is going to be utilized going forward. We didn't have a chance to look at the summer program data. One of the things that we've been focusing on is trying to take some of those SAI scores and seeing if it makes an impact on the overall beginning of the year assessment for the students that did attend throughout the summer. We had an ELA chair update, and we reviewed the beginning of the year data for K1, 2, 3, and 4 with iReady and HMH programs. We discussed reviewing how skills align with NJSLA state testing, and if they're the same things that are being tested going forward. We didn't have a chance to view the summer program data as well in ELA. Through history, Ms. Mendoza discussed reviewing the digital textbooks over the summer. She found that the teachers were having a difficult time navigating these texts, so there's some changes there. Students were consistently underperforming 2 to 3 levels below grade. So the goal is to see 1 level of growth. That's the goal that she set for the social studies. Action, she worked with the teachers to show how to navigate digital textbooks and showed them how text can be simplified for students with literacy challenges. So that was something else across ELA and social studies that was discussed. The TAG program or Dimensions program, Ms. Esposito created a presentation that will be presented at board meetings. She discussed changing the name from TAG to Dimensions. This is a little ahead of our last.
Now it's Horizons now.
Yeah, but is this the last?
This is-
a curriculum update last meeting, but go ahead because
This is-
you're
she
reading
gave-
more details.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wait.
Because
Then-
the last time you met, I think this was before the last board
Okay,
meeting.
well, we're gonna, because I think it aligns with the NJSLA. Successful rollout for the implementation of the Horizons program, and discussing interventions goals. The INRS program was also presented with the beginning of the year goals for the year. The beginning of the year data should be collected and reviewed by teachers with chairs, but not presented at the board meeting just yet, so that they can start to kind of develop what their action plans would be. Mid-year data will be collected and will be presented in the comparison with the beginning of the year data. So we'll look at that the next meeting. Summer program, we talked about changing the curriculum nights to be a little bit more specific on the text. So that's another piece too, is with the parent component. It's difficult if you don't have a background in accessing the text and curriculum that they're currently using. So kind of changing how we focus those curriculum nights to just make sure that parents are empowered with the knowledge to navigate the curriculum. The curriculum chairs did share input about low attendance for these nights. So we were going to possibly send a survey or questionnaire asking what parents directly needed in the area of support when it came to the curriculum. They even talked about developing a curriculum newsletter developed by the chairs. That wasn't really finalized, but that was one of the ideas that was presented. And parent-teacher formats also discussed. So the parent-teacher night, parent-teacher conferences. So if your student was at risk, spending a little bit more time with some of those parents and giving the option to other parents if their student was doing well. That was something that the chairs brought up. And then developing like an invitation only policy that parents can come in just for, to discuss their specific student needs if the teachers deem it to be appropriate. Homework was discussed at length, and we did talk about that in the last meeting. So the pending business is we will bring the goals with us to every single curriculum meeting to bring us back to the district goals. Goal number 1 is enhance academic achievement and rigor with expanding the gifted and talented program and project-based learning activities to be shared at a board level. Data-driven instruction, utilize Linkit to monitor student progress and identify learning gaps and set specific measurable outcomes. Have department chairs collaborate with teachers on data analysis to inform instruction and provide targeted support where needed. This goal will be evidenced through the curriculum presentations from the chairs that demonstrate how the data is being used and the goals that they're setting. Professional development, other professional development workshops focused on differentiating instruction, data analysis, and effective instructions. Create opportunities for colleagues in implementing high academic expectations. Continuous monitoring and feedback. Establish a cycle of continuous monitoring with review data, with regular data review meetings to adjust instructional strategies. And the 7/8s, specifically, we want to improve their achievement data through supports and create improvements through the curriculum chairs. They'll create achievement plan with data to support improvements, and present to the curriculum in the mid-year assessments for November, December. The data for children who took the program over the summer will be scored, and that will also be factored into the presentation. And student input throughout the year, including presentations, student council share-outs, student concerns, and periodic reports on student performance, student growth, how data demonstrates achievements. And each curriculum meeting, we will talk about student performance, growth, and achievement. We are still looking if a particular grade level area is struggling with that teacher. So if a particular grade level or subject area is struggling, that teacher will be asked to present a plan. Still deciding if it should be the committee chairs or Ms. Torres. That plan will be presented in slides and shared by the chairs. And they're looking to also talk about revamping the tutoring program and making sure data collection drives instruction. And then we talked a little bit about what types of supports are currently available through the WIN time and Boost. So now there's that 8 to 8:15 time every morning for students who need extra support. We wanted to look at how tutoring services can be assessed and if we need to require additional services. If there's a student with a particular concern in a unit of study, they could be brought up to the WIN periods or get additional help via Boost. And then we also talked a little bit about after-school commitments and students who have a lot of things to do after school, and if they are struggling, how to support them. And then there was some conversation brought up about handwriting and writing skills, and if this is something that we want to target through the committee. So we talked about a lot of stuff in reviewing those reports. Communications met as well on the 22nd of this month. We created the board corner, and thank you to everybody who reached out with positive feedback. It's something that's going to be sent out separately outside of the BPN so that it can have its own kind of spotlight. It'll be once a month, and it's going to be general news from the board. We're also looking at this time, we were forming the committee for the uniforms. The committee has been developed and will be meeting not after this week and before Thanksgiving. So we're trying to meet this month. We also talked about how the board meetings are run with the public comment. And the main goal is to bring the community closer to continue to support our school and our vision and keep our mission alive. So that's why we discussed introducing the mission every meeting. The deadline for the bios, I hope the board was done, but we have to get those out. And our optional surveys for our jobs to try to bring the people from the community into the classrooms or the classrooms into the community should go out in November. So that's just going to ask community members where they work, if they're willing to host, if they're willing to come in and discuss, similar to what has been done in the past. It just needs to be updated. And then we'll continue to communicate via the board corner, and that's about it. We did have governance, so I don't know, Keisha, if you want to talk about governance.
So we met on October 30th, and we discussed, I think, similar to what you might have discussed in communications, but we talked about a resource for new board members, just concerning the policies, the bylaws, and other governance material, just making sure that all new members understand what those policies are, understand what the bylaws are. We circulated the bylaws within the committee so that we can look at them and determine if there's anything that needs to be updated so that we're able to propose that to the board for updates. We'll discuss that at the next committee meeting. And we did briefly discuss school events based on the Trunk and Treat event, just constructive feedback about a banner for the board table and how the board will present itself at future events, and then evaluating which events might be the best for the board to maximize its presence.
Thank you.
Which goes right to finance.
And finance, yeah.
So we met today and we discussed the situation of the playground. The gate coming in on Chestnut Avenue is still a work in progress, as I understand. There's still some work to be done there in order to get that going, but that is in progress. We also, of course, discussed again the how we're gonna fund the banner, table cover, and just like a small storage bin or something to keep it all in, so we can keep it here at school, and it can be obviously easily accessed for events will hopefully increase our presence as well. We also touched on some of the checks are in support of the repair of the classroom areas that were affected by the water, so we did review that. And that's really it.
Thank you. Okay. And then now is the time for public comment regarding specifically the resolutions.
Well, let me go through the list first. Oh, you want to go through the let's flop that. Yeah, I don't want to get lost in the resolutions and have to go back to it yet. So this would be general.
General. Yeah, public comment.
Going back to the NJLA schools, will the scores occur through to like the class grade?
The class grades.
Yeah, so like if a kid got a B in science in the class, was his grade a B on the NJSLA?
We don't have all that data right now to look at, but many times they were not. So there were times that students may have A or B in the classroom and the NJSLA it only tests for that specific assessment. So where a grade will do homework assessments, it's a variety of assessments. So there are two different.
Got it. I'm asking that because I know that in the schools that I've worked in, and even with my own kids, it's like this test anxiety, right? And so is there a space to do like test prep and teaching kids how to take tests so that we can eliminate some of that anxiety? Even for me, when I'm old, but like I did Stanley Kaplan's in New York to prepare for the SAT, and my grade changed on SAT drastically from the first time I took it to the second time I took it because I had the test prep, and I was taught test prep when I was in elementary school also. So, you know what I mean? So like test prep is something I can, I know after, your kids listen to you differently than listen to other people.
And it's interesting because even as we see sometimes even as young as first, second grade, you could see the students getting anxiety even for just a spelling assessment. And it is as they even younger, as they get older, you do see that. So some teachers are putting like movement breaks or some type of common music and talking to them a little bit about it. But I think we can still benefit from doing some more.
Like actually like test prep. This is how you approach the test. This is how you should like navigate through the test, things that you know versus things that you don't know.
Right, how to eliminate answers that you know aren't the right answers and kind of simplify it, right.
Test prep, that gives them more confidence going into the test because, like kids I don't believe that our kids are failing at the same rate. And like just things that I'm seeing in school. I don't want to take up too many time. It was test prep. Any other ideas on why there were the drops in the NJSLA scores other than what was presented? Like any other ideas?
Well, we did change last year the upper school math curriculum for 7th and 8th grade. So that was we feel like that could have something to do with getting used to the curriculum as the instructor and as for the students with the curriculum. I do feel like some of the 8th graders, because they took the assessment so late in the year, they were already accepted to high schools. And some of them, their attitude was like, I'm already in going to this school and they already received and accepted me. So a lot of the attitudes in 8th graders, some of them didn't really put the effort that they should have. And I think even teaching them how important it is that even though you're leaving, you still should continue to put, because this still does travel you when you go to high school, your assessments. But amongst other like things that we talked about before.
Two real quick things. Did you guys, how did you do against TNET last year in NJSLA? I hope we don't have the scores this year.
I don't have the specifics, but yeah, historically, we have outperformed, in the aggregate at least. I think actually somewhere on our website, we've got last year's comparison, which maybe includes that. But yeah, we definitely outperformed the district. Significantly in some areas, a little bit closer in others, but as in our reports, we can certainly say that we did outperform the district.
And lastly, is there a science chair?
We have a STEM coordinator. We actually, when we do our stipends, we are wanting to change it into the future-wise to have a science chair, not just a STEM coordinator.
Got it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the NJSLA, are there a set of goals that are identified by the state that shared with you guys? And if there is the curriculum being compared to those goals to see if there's any gaps? Because I think that's a good spot to look at. Because if there's any gaps, you can fill them in by adjusting your curriculum. And then the scores, do you get a more granular look besides just having that percentage?
Absolutely.
Like
No, we've
topics or
yes, no. So we have all those reports, and those are shared with the chairs and teachers to a certain degree without overwhelming them, because there's so much data. It's actually, and that's the reports that we don't even get from Linkit, like the DOE. As a parent, you get the one sheet, and it's got like these are like the 5 different skills that they worked on. This is how they did in each individual one. But we have a granular look like to the actual like question type. And we're able to sort of look at that if in really extreme cases. But we do have that information.
Okay.
Yep.
And so can those questions be used for practice?
No. No, I mean, no, we don't get the actual questions. Like,
Okay.
like it's the type of questions. Like, so like a narrative response on a persuasive writing compared to like something else. We're not allowed to copy, take pictures of, have any sort of samples of what the actual questions even were. After a certain number of years, because they do reuse some of these things, after a number of years, they actually like decommission questions. And you'll see that there's actually on the resources that we share out with parents, there are practice tests that actually have old questions that have been used. And that's something else actually back to like the whole like test taking skills. The format that the kids take the test in and everything else, that's all available online for practice. And actually with Linkit, they try to sort of mirror the way that the assessment is, so that some of the assessments that we're doing in-house are a little bit more familiar to them, particularly to the kids who are just getting into it. Yeah. So there's so many different sort of factors that we're looking at and to try to address the concerns that we have, but also to sort of explain away, why we're doing, scoring at a certain level where we want to be doing better. Okay.
And then for the scores that were read from comparison from last year to this year, did those students have a significant change in their curriculum? Is it a brand new curriculum they're using, or is there?
No, just like I said, just the upper school had changed. We'd have HMH now, this is our third year with the HMH program for upper school from 3 to 8.
And then do you guys look at what, I know like you compare to TMEC, but do you also compare to like blue ribbon schools to see what type of curriculum they're using?
So yeah, I mean, so we don't really have access to that specifically, but through the Charter Association, we are actually going to be asking if they can run some reports for us. Not necessarily blue ribbon schools, but certainly other charter schools with similar missions, similar demographics and grade levels and things like that.
I'm just curious, what's the rationale between doing science testing like not every year? Because I think part of me wonders if that also
That's
contributes.
for as long as we've been doing standardized tests. That's even always been the case, though. Even when it was NJ Ask or like the going way back to Park and other sort of versions of it. And honestly, I don't even know if it comes down to a cost factor because it does cost the state money to actually distribute these tests, score these tests, and licensing. So I don't really know particularly why they only do it at 5th grade and 8th grade. And it is concerning because, right, we don't have that sort of direct correlation year to year about how the kids are doing. It's like they take it and then 3 years later, we see how they did. That's not to say, though, that we can't do a little bit more in terms of our own in-house assessments to see how the kids are doing. I mean, at the end of the day, if we're testing by the standards and we're following the curriculum, we should be aligning with what the expectations are from the state. But I mean, you'll see about it and hear about it. There's definitely concerns statewide about standardized test performances. And that's an ongoing conversation, but particularly in science this year, because they took so long to even get the scores out, you see that there's a dramatic sort of drop.
One more.
Yeah.
There was a comment about teaching to the test, about not teaching to the test, and I was just curious of the rationale behind that.
Sure. I mean, as in terms of our mission and the fact that we're an experiential learning environment and that we particularly try to incorporate a lot of these lessons in what we're doing already. We don't have a separate sort of test taking curriculum that we follow necessarily. I mean, to be totally honest, over the last 8-9 years, there's been a dramatic increase in the amount of assessments that we do in-house and the data that we do collect. So without specifically saying that we're going to stop doing our regular curriculum for the month of May, we're only going to focus on test taking, which is what they do in some districts. That's what I mean by teaching to the test. Like, we're not going to stop what we're doing. We're not going to stop our field trips. We're not going to stop our regular curriculum and how we normally do business, just to focus only on the test, which is, again, what they do in some other places to varying results. I mean, historically, we have, our scores have fluctuated up, down. But again, if you look at the state scores as well, it's sort of in line with that as well. So what we do works, But we do need to then, again, look at the data and see what we could be doing better to make sure that when the kids are actually sitting down at the test, they are more prepared and our results are really showing what our kids are capable of.
And they're just taking one test a year?
They take one test a year. It's a state, yeah.
Yeah, no, I do think it's helpful. Like I know when, like taking tests, especially early, I think it's helpful because I know like with me, I did it early and so I didn't think anything about it.
Right.
For me, I didn't have that mental block, and I think, if we can, get them to take the test early and kind of think of it as a regular thing, it's just, it's just like that language, like learning stuff early, like sometimes you have a mental block when you catch it a little later because you know enough to think that it's hard.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I mean, the issue that we kind of run into is, well, I mean, the state only gives a certain window that we're allowed to do the test. And at the same time, you don't want to do it too early because some of the concepts that they're taking the test on, they haven't even learned yet because they're in that current school year. So if we're following the curriculum and it's supposed to be a representative sort of assessment of what they're doing for the entire year, you can't take it too early because they haven't learned everything that they need to do to really showcase that. So it is a little bit tricky, but I mean, we do have certain requirements that we have to meet with when the test is taken, how long it takes to take the test, what sort of weeks we're allowed to do it in. But again, we look at all that year to year just to see, what we could do to just improve the situation for the kids and to make it as least stressful as possible. Because we do also agree, like we've been saying here, that it does come down to some kids either not being mentally into it because they've either checked out like eighth graders, or just the fact that they have this kind of test taking anxiety, like was mentioned before. So, we continue to think about it and plan ahead, but the test will be taken again in the spring, probably in May, as is the case with just about every school in the state. Okay.
How do the students report their experience? Then do we know that, how they feel about it?
I mean,
They just look nervous every time and I think sometimes it's the pressure, sometimes even from when the high schools they do want to attend. So I do feel like some of them want to do really, really well and they're really nervous. But sometimes they get excited because in the afternoon they get to go outside and stuff. So then sometimes some of them may have I just want to get it done because of this. So there are some things that we do have to really look into.
All right.
Resolutions?
Thank you guys for your comments. Yes. You can go through those.
Okay, so we have 6 resolutions tonight. The first one being a budget summary, which are the bills that we've paid since the last meeting. We've got a snow removal contract that we need to have on file. Well, it doesn't feel like we need it this week. The winter's coming soon. We've got a couple of personnel appointments for extracurricular positions for our coaches for the winter and spring seasons. We've got just a couple field trips that are coming up in the near future. Actually, one in the near future, one in the spring. We've got the HIB self-assessment that Christina mentioned before. This is just giving us permission to go ahead and submit that. And then finally, we have a brief closed session to discuss HIB reporting. Okay.
Yep. Any public comment regarding the resolutions? All right, Resolution 2411-01, Budget Summary. Be it resolved that the budget summary for October 8th, 2024 to November 4th, 2024, total amount $357,350.80 be approved. Moved by Vallejo Jesse moves. Second. Avino seconds. Sorry, Goodrich. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Goodrich?
Yes.
McGilchrist?
Yeah.
Vallejo Justy?
Yes.
Hadnot, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2411-02, Snow Removal Contract. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the attached agreement with New Bridge Snow Services for snow removal services. Moved by Vallejo Justy moves. Second. Goodrich seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Goodrich?
Yes.
McGilchrist?
Yes.
Vallejo Justy?
Yes.
Hadnot, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2412-03.
2411. It's not 12. 2411.
Oh, sorry.
Right, yeah.
03. I'm editing things and not supposed to be editing.
That's okay.
2411-03, personnel appointments extracurricular. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the following extracurricular appointments for 2024-2025 school year. I'm going to leave them up. You guys could look. Moved by? Goodrich moves. Second? Avino seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Goodrich?
Yes.
McGilchrist?
Yes.
Vallejo Justy?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2411-04, field trips. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the following field trips. Medieval Times for 7/8, FDU for 3rd through 8th, and Historic Hudson Valley for 3rd and 4th. Additional 2024-2025 trips to be announced pending administrative approval of proposals. Moved by? Carter moves. Second? Leah Justy seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Goodrich?
Yes.
McGilchrist?
Yes.
Vallejo Justy? Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2411-05, HIB self-assessment. Be it resolved that the board approves submission of the 2023-2024 HIB grades self-assessment. Moved by? Avino moves. Carter seconds. I don't know if I got that back. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Goodrich?
Yes.
McGilchrist?
Yes.
Vallejo Justy?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2411-06, closed session. Be it resolved that the TCCS board go into closed session on November 4th to discuss HIB reports. Moved by? Vallejo Justy moves. Avino second. Okay. Avino?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Goodrich?
Yes.
McGilchrist?
Yes.
Vallejo Justy?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. We are going into closed session at 8:10 p.m. Thank you all for coming. No decisions.
No business will be conducted.
No business will be conducted when we come back. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I just have to go to the restroom really quick.